Hey, you. I'm talking to you. This is Duke Nukem, the biggest badass in the galaxy. And if you know what's good for you, you'll listen to Game On. Enough said.
You're listening to the new GameOn Podcast. Now back to the couch with Jeff Johnson. Yes, you're hearing things right. It is the new GameOn Podcast. I am Jeff Johnson. We've talked about 2 games so far. I've got one more I want to talk about in this week's episode. I love strategy RPGs. I have a lot of fun playing them. They are one of my favorite genres. In fact, some of my favorite games I've ever played have come from the strategy RPG genre. I'm looking at games like Final Fantasy Tactics, Sayuki, The Journey West, Front Mission 3. I've heard a lot of good things about the Fire Emblem series, and I had a lot of fun with them, but that's not the type of strategy games I'm looking for. They're good, but they're not in the class of like the Final Fantasy Tactics, the Front Mission 3s, and of course, one of my favorite strategy RPGs, which I am bound to talk about as this whole thing goes on with the coronavirus. Ogre Battle series is fantastic. I love Ogre Battle. I love Ogre Battle 64, Tactics Ogre, any of the Tactics Ogre, including the re-released Tactics Ogre for PSP. That thing is a gem. And if you have a PSP, you should have that game because it is a must-play. But we're getting a little bit off topic. Those games are all great. And I'm sure a lot of them had a lot of influence in the game I'm talking about today, Children of Zodiarcs. Now, this game comes from a Canadian studio. I haven't looked too much into the sort of history, but I keep seeing that sort of Canadian Media Fund logo popping up as I turn on the game. So I'm happy to be playing a Canadian game. The fact that it's a strategy game makes things even better. So right off the bat, at this point, I am about 8 missions into this game. 8 of the different sort of battle maps so far. From what I can tell from this game, just from looking at the cover, I can guarantee that one of your characters is going to betray you within about, I'd say, 10 or 12 missions. That's my prediction, because there is no way that they have the big head honcho guy, I think his name is Reichert. There is no way that you have an image of your main character standing in front of a shadowy image of Reichert's head, and there is no way that he is not the bad guy. So there has to be a heel turn coming soon enough. Yes, I'm using my wrestling lingo for this one, but a heel turn is imminent, and I am going to be glad to point it out when it does happen. Anyway, let's talk about the battle system of this game, because this, to me, is where this game stands out. First off, it is the same sort of tactical RPG grid system that you see. Your character has a set number of spaces they can move. If you attack an enemy from behind, it's called a backstab, and they cannot block it, and they cannot do any sort of counterattack to it. It's your typical sort of RPG stuff. Where things are different, though, is how your moves are determined. So every single one of your character's moves are determined by playing cards. And so the way it works is, before you go into a battle, you organize what moves your character has by basically organizing their deck. And you have to have a certain number of cards in your deck before you go into a battle. So you can get healing cards, you can get sort of status effect cards, you can get attack cards, and as those cards actually level up, those cards also get special effects added onto them. So when you attack, you could make your enemy character drop a card from their hand, or you could put a status effect on them, or you could put a cursed dice on them. And yes, I say dice because we're coming up to that in the next part. Every single time you choose one of your cards, you then have to choose which enemy you're going to hit. The same style that happens in every strategy game. Where things change, though, is when you select your opponent that you're going to hit, or you select your ally you're going to heal, you come to the dice roll screen. Every attack in this game requires a dice roll. And so the way it works is you press one button to sort of grab onto the dice, and then you got to move your control stick really quick to do the sort of motion of throwing the dice, and then you let go of the button, the dice get thrown, and whatever symbols pop up is what sort of affects your move in this. So if you get like sort of the gemstone one, it increases the power of the attack that you're doing, or it increases the amount that you heal. If you get the card symbol, like there's basically a symbol with a couple of cards on it, you get to draw an extra card from your deck after you complete your attack. There's also one that gives extra actions. There's one of them that is shaped like a heart that heals your character when they attack, which is a fantastic one because it means I have to do less healing moves as well. And also, this is where the extra strategy comes in, because if you roll an extra action, you can do another extra action. You can do another attack. Or if you're not close enough to another enemy to do another attack, you can always choose to draw more cards, getting more cards to attack with next time you have a move. This battle system is really inventive. And to me, this sells the game to me. It is a new system, a new way of doing this whole strategy RPG thing, and it's great. It is really cool. I really like that because it's like I'm playing a board game. It's like I'm playing a Dungeons and Dragons, or I'm playing like a Risk. It is fantastic. And for that reason, I'm going to keep on playing this game. So, and I mean, the whole setting of it kind of reminds me of how Final Fantasy Tactics started up. Actually, it's probably closer to like how Tactics Ogre started up, because you have sort of like the ruling hierarchy above you. And then what ends up happening is you've got your sort of characters in the slums that you got to build up to sort of take on the government and basically take things over. Here you've got a ruling class of sort of barons and royals who don't care about the people in the slums, don't care about the kids in the slums. And then you got, I believe his name is Reichert. If I'm screwing that name up, I do apologize, but he's sort of this big ogre of a man who's raising kids in the slums. And it's the kids in the slums that you're playing as who are basically taking the war to these royals, taking the war to them, stealing their stuff, and stealing these items called Zodiarcs. The Zodiarcs are basically the Magellan of the story, the MacGuffin of the story, and they are the ones that have the sort of magical power that sort of gives this game its sort of oomph. Like, basically, this is what gives people their special abilities, these Zodiarcs. And so, at this point, I don't know where the game is going. I don't know what the sort of overarching story is going to be. Like I said, I see a heel turn coming. I see that I have a feeling that one of your good guys is going to go bad. I also have a feeling that something is going to change from this, because at this point, all it is almost this Robin Hood-esque story where we're stealing stuff from the royals to sort of give money to our band of little sort of street kids. And that's interesting, but I want to see where it develops. So, system-wise, this game is incredible. If you like strategy RPGs, I'd give it a try. Storyline-wise, it's a little too early for me to tell you where it's going to go, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to spoil it for you either if I did get further in. So, I'm still going to play this game. I will say right now that the strategy system that they've got is definitely worth trying. But that's my thoughts on Children of Zodiarcs. I'm having a great time with it. I'm going to keep on playing it, and I recommend you try it too. I'm Jeff Johnson. This is the new GameOn Podcast.
You're listening to Game On.
And now, angry ticks fire out of my nipples.
Just listen to the show.